Welcome back to Morning Joe. Insurgents in Iraq and Syria say they have officially established a new Islamic State in the region. A spokesman for the group says Muslims around the world, including other militant organizations, must now swear allegiance to what they call a caliphate, an Islamic State with a supreme leader. The declaration by ISIS, which controls a lot of ground right now, could trigger more infighting with other jihadists battling for power. Iraqi forces now trying to take back territory from the Sunni extremists, and there's no shortage of outside influence as well. Russian experts are on the ground in Iraq training pilots on how to fly recently acquired warplanes from Moscow. Iranian advisors reportedly in the country, along with America's special forces teams, helping Iraqi troops size up the enemy. As that fight rages on, an earlier episode from the U.S.-led war there 3 years ago is only now coming to light. A report of the New York Times details actions in Iraq by the private contracting firm Blackwater, whose hired guards were known for heavy-handed tactics. According to the piece, when State Department investigators looked into the company's actions in 2007, they were met by threats and intimidation. One government official said Blackwater's project manager told him, quote, he could kill me at that very moment and no one could or would do anything about it. The probe faulted contractors on several fronts, from weapons violations to heavy drinking with women visitors. In one incident, 4 drunk guards crashed an armored vehicle on the way to a private party. Despite reporting the episodes and the threats, the embassy sided with Blackwater, and the State Department investigators were removed from the country. Blackwater, which has since changed its name, continued its operations there. 4 Blackwater guards are currently on trial in Washington for killing 17 civilians in Baghdad in 2007. Matt Lewis, there's a lot to wade through here. You ought to go ahead and read, everybody should, the New York Times piece about this. What's your initial reaction, though?
Well, first, I think it's clearly an indictment on the notion of having contractors that are outside the normal chain of command involved to this degree. I do wonder about the American embassy officials who sided with Blackwater, though. I'm very curious why they did that, if they were intimidated or if they felt Blackwater was performing a service that was desperately needed, or if there's more to this story than we have been led to believe based on this report.
Well, I would take a shot at answering your question, Matt. The Blackwater contractors were providing security for those State Department officials in the green zone, in the embassy. They were with them every hour of every day, and you become dependent upon your life for the contractor. You alluded to what I feel, just from hearing people talk about it anecdotally. I don't know what you've heard, Gene.
Yeah.
One of the biggest stories of our involvement in Iraq and subsequently Afghanistan to a lesser extent is the number of private contractors under the Pentagon's budget. It is an enormous dollar amount. It is an enormous amount of people.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And you know, those operations could not have worked without these contractors, too. So we did become dependent on them. I think this is a huge issue, and this is something we ought to be talking about, and something the government ought to take you know, a much broader look at than just these 17, just these Blackwater guys who were on trial for killing these civilians. I think it's a big deal. We've privatized war. It used to be called mercenaries, is what we used to call them.
Which means they operate under their own rules as well, as we've seen many times. Coming up next, Watson made its television debut more than 3 years ago. Now IBM wants to invite him into your kitchen. The tech company plans on helping turn you into a master chef. More Morning Joe next.